Something that I got into last year is keeping my own backyard chickens. And today I want to talk about how easy and how simple it is to get your own flock started. So, I want to start by addressing the most difficult part about keeping chickens, which by far is making the coop. Now, there's two routes you can go, which is getting a prefabricated structure so you can just buy it off of, buy it online essentially and then put it together, or you could buy the supplies that make your own coop. Now, I opted to make my own, but I also had some tools, and having the tools makes the job a lot more simple. So, if you're going to be making your own, I highly recommend that you have the appropriate tools. Like, it's nice to have like a miter saw and like a circular saw and a couple of other things for sure. But yeah, even if you're putting together a prefab, you definitely want to have at least some essential bare minimum tools because otherwise you're going to be in some trouble. Now, one thing I want to mention about prefabs before I go take you guys over to my coop is that they usually come with insufficient chicken wire, and while chicken wire will keep the chickens in, it will not keep predators out, and it'll be very easy for something to break into your coop, and that is no good. So we definitely don't want that to happen. So if you get a prefabbed coop, you are 100% going to need to replace the chicken wire with sturdier quarter-inch mesh. Alright, so we're going to take a trip to the coop so you guys can get a feel for what I did with mine and also some features you're going to want to include in your own coop. Alright, so this is my setup. First thing you'll notice is I have this egg hatch, and I actually have an egg in here, which is always nice. But let me throw that out and try not to forget about it. But alright, so yeah, this is one feature you definitely want, is the nesting boxes, and I have the egg door. Something you're also going to want to have is a clean out door, because at some point you're going to need to take the waste from inside the coop, and at least with me, I put it in my compost over here, so that works out pretty well. I don't know if you can really tell, but it's over there. But yeah, having this is nice. And you can kind of see from the front, that's like the nesting boxes and stuff. It's a little tricky to close it, but... So I also have some wrapping on it because it's been cold and snowy and stuff, so... Now, one feature that I added after I finished this is a little chicken door. So I can have this main door closed and blocking the wind as much as possible, and they can still get in and out. But I have a little station here for their food and their water, and I have a heated base for the water. They have their crumble. They have oyster shells down there and some grit in that other container with the green base, so they're doing pretty good. Now, I have the straw here for winter. Usually I do just regular mulch, but I'm going to take the straw out after winter's done and replace it with just some more mulch, and that works out really good. And I don't normally do straw in the coop either, but it's been working out for winter, so I'll take that. But this is also, like, you can kind of see the chicken door from the other side, so I can just shut it, so it's no big deal. But this is by far the most difficult part of the process if you're going to be trying to keep your own chickens, is just making yourself a coop. Because I mean, it can take up a decent amount of space. I think this is 4 by 12, something like that. No, 6. I think it's 6 by 12. It's 6 feet wide, 12 feet long, something like that. But yeah, it's no joke. This is definitely the most difficult part about the whole thing, in my opinion. Alright, so next I want to show you guys the supplies that I use to take care of these chickens, and it's really simple. So I have a layer feed, I have oyster shells, and I have grit that I give them as well. So let's go take a look at those supplies. So I get a 50-pound bag of the layer crumble, a 50-pound bag of the poultry grit, and a 50-pound bag of the oyster shells. The oyster shells are nice because it makes sure that their eggs have proper shells, because sometimes hens will have an issue where the shell is not developed enough and they'll be soft. And the grit is good because they don't have teeth, so they use grit to digest their food essentially. They'll break it down in their gizzard and shit. So it's really strange, but it's good to give them. Even if you free range them, it's good to just have it because they'll eat it if they need it. I will say mine rarely eat it. They definitely use the oyster shells though. All right, so something else that I'd like to talk about is the cost of some of these products. Now, I will say this last bag of feed was more expensive than what I usually get, but I can usually get feed from about $14 at the cheapest, all the way up to about $23 what I spent on the last one. But locally, I can get it for $16. So a couple of different numbers for that. The oyster shells were $21, about $22, but for a huge bag, and that's gonna last me a long time. Let's see, the grit was only $10 for a 50-pound bag. That's pretty nice. And I also didn't show this, but I use Waukesha barn lime, and also I have pine shavings for their bedding. But I mean, you just get like a big bag of it. I think it's like 40 or 50 pounds, and the barn lime is 50 pounds, but it's cheap. This barn lime, it was $3.69, so it's cheap, and you get a bunch of it. So you don't need to be spending $20 on like Saturday First Lime or whatever. You don't have to be doing that. So, and the pine shavings aren't too bad either. Yeah, so the pricing on the actual stuff that you'll be buying for your chickens isn't that bad. I also highly suggest picking up a couple bales of straw, because it's really handy for the nesting boxes, as well as when it gets really cold. It helps insulate the hen's feet if you put it like in the run, or if you put it in their coop. It's helpful for insulation and just in general. So I can definitely tell you from experience, they love this spot for nesting because they made a little nest right there, and you can see all the little feathers. But yeah, they definitely pick up some straw for your chickens. And hay is not bad to pick up either, but hay is like a food, so use the hay as food and use the straw as like bedding and stuff. So that'll definitely get you better mileage for that stuff. Two other things I want to show, and this is my barn lime. This is Waukesha barn lime. This stuff is great and it's cheap. So you can get this for like under $4, and it's a 50-pound bag. So I get a lot of use out of this, and it lasts me quite a while. So I like that. And I also have the pine bedding, and it's a 5 cubic foot bag, and that lasts me quite a while as well. So can't beat that. But yeah, they're pretty chill. They're pretty easy to take care of. I mean, I free range mine, so they're not stuck in the run all the time, but they have it if they need it, and I think that's incredibly important to give them. But yeah, this is a good life for them because they can scratch and peck like they're doing now, and they'll supplement their diet this way, and they'll be much healthier as well. Honestly, I think that this is one of the most important things for me, is just being able to give them this, but it does come with risks because I deal with hawks, and I also have a fox that comes around, so there is danger involved with free ranging your chickens. There is danger with keeping chickens because things like to eat them, but just keep an eye on them and free range them when you could monitor them. That's my best advice, because I only have them out when I'm actually here and able to keep track of what they're doing and shit. So usually if they start making a bunch of noise, I can run out here and start making a bunch of crow sounds at the hawk, which is always great. It works too. It also helps summon some crows, and they will always fight the hawks, which is great. So, but yeah, chickens are pretty simple. You know, honestly, like I was saying, the most difficult part by far is just building the coop and trying to figure out where you want it. Yeah, I mean, chickens will generally just take care of themselves. I mean, there is instances where they can become bullies towards each other, but usually this is when they're confined all the time. And you know, if you do have to keep them in a run all the time, I just suggest making a big run. I would definitely double what you think is appropriate, or what you have been recommended, just because again, if they have to be in there all the time, then you might need to be cleaning up their waste a lot as well, because you don't want them to be just constantly with their own waste. So that's a big downside to having them just in the run all the time. But yeah, this is a lot healthier for them, in my opinion, if you're able to do it, to free range them at least a good portion of the day if you're able to. Obviously, you know, when it comes down to it, you don't want to lose a chicken. So if you can only free range them for like an hour or two, still better than nothing. But well, I think the ladies are getting freaked out by something, but But yeah, there's really not that much work that goes into keeping chickens. I mean, the hardest part, other than building a coop, is I guess doing a deep clean if you do the deep litter method. But I mean, you just have a place to compost everything, then you're pretty much set. And I used my shop vac to do the detailing of anything I couldn't get out, which was not a ton. I have a leaf blower now too, so I could probably use that to help jostle stuff within the coop. But again, it's not that difficult. Uh, the most money and time you're going to spend is getting it set up. And it does take a while for chickens to lay their first eggs, so don't be expecting that you're going to be getting eggs right away. But once they start laying, they're pretty reliable, especially if you keep them in good health, you keep them happy. Naturally, chickens will give themselves a little bit of a break from laying eggs, especially when the daylight hours decrease. So I would avoid the temptation to add a light and just let nature take its course, and your hens will thank you for it, I'm sure. So yeah, I would say if you're thinking about getting chickens, that it is not that difficult, and you really can make it as simple as possible by just keeping your birds healthy and give them a good environment to live in, and keep them free from predators.